Good evening, everybody, and welcome to my haunt. Tonight I'm going to give you guys a tour of the MalaMaker haunt here on Pocono Street in Morton, Illinois. And I'm going to show you guys a little bit of the ambiance of the night. It's a beautiful night, perfect, the slightest wind, and I'm getting a beautiful layout of the fog over the yard, as you can see. But I'm going to give you guys a little bit of the background and behind the scenes looks at these things and show you guys some of the things that are coming that have actually are in the process of being made but just didn't quite make tonight, but they'll be up in the next couple days. But I'll show you guys some of the new stuff that's coming out this year too. So with that, let's start taking a tour of the yard. All right. So first I'm just going to give you guys a nice view of what we have going on here. And I'll turn a light on here in a second so you guys can see a little bit more. But you can see from last year, Von Rolf has made it back out. And he is watching your every move as you walk by. I wish I could actually show this so much better just in the live. I'm going to see if I can actually turn up the exposure here. See if we get a little bit better view of things. But this is the yard, and I still can't get a good exposure. Trying to not turn on the light, but I think I'm gonna have to. So anyways, most of what's in the yard right now is from last year's haunt. I've kind of actually repositioned some things this year to where everything's kind of straightforward, facing out, straight out from the yard, mainly because we now have a through street. But one thing that you guys may have noticed is I no longer have the spotlight that I had last year. I have disconnected the light just for the time being, just unplugged it. I hope anybody watching does not follow my lead in any way. So, but this is the MalaMaker haunt. The yard itself, you'll see the fog is well spread out this year. Last year, to kind of give you guys an idea of last year versus this year, and to kind of give you a really good view between me and actually my neighbor's yard, the fog just kind of creeping out actually at the low point in the yard and just kind of following its way out. Last year I had the diffusers right behind the tombstones, and this year I decided to kind of change it up a little bit. I still have the diffusers behind each tombstone distributing out the fog, but now I actually have a perimeter that follows all around the outside of the haunt to spread it out even more. And so I took what I did last year and kind of ramped it up a little bit. That's actually one of the new things for this year that I've added to really ramp up the fog. And you can see the ambience of this is just incredible. With the ambience, it's kind of one thing to note. With the fog being low-lying the way it is, I'm actually not using any ice whatsoever. Actually, that was one thing that I knew. I've formerly had a DJ company, and I was well aware that how you made low-lying fog was with ice. And in the trial and error of what I've been doing over the last 3 years with distributing the fog in an outdoor environment, I started pumping fog through these tubes, and I'll show you guys this in a little bit. But in the effort of pushing the fog through the tube with fans, I was actually able to create a natural low line effect, because and it makes sense as to why, as the fog gets pushed through the tubes, it actually naturally cools, which is essentially what the ice would be doing if there were ice in there. So I'm not using any ice, and I'm getting the low line effect, which is absolutely incredible. It actually saves a ton of money on ice, having to do that every night and time. And it was really just a happy accident. So you'll see as we kind of walk through the yard just kind of how well spread out it is, and I'll show you kind of some of the tubing that really at night you cannot see. So we'll kind of take a tour of the tombstones here really quick, and then I'll start showing kind of some of the new stuff, and then we'll show kind of some of the behind the scenes. Let's see here if I can get turn back down the exposure. I think that's what we're getting now. So Andreas King, it's hard to see, but Andreas King has made it back into the yard this year, and all in one piece, even though he's got some cracks on his tombstone. And next we have Jesse Corman. He was 88 when he passed. And you'll see some of the detail of the tombstones. All of this is either done through my CNC router that I have, or I do some of it by hand using water heat guns, etc., things like that, to really give that real authentic look. Diane Rott, and you can see kind of some of the detail of this tombstone here. And our next tombstone, which has a crow perched upon it, is Mark a Place, or last name Place, first name Mark. And you can actually see down here in the yard a speaker there. That is actually for the crow crowing. So that is one of the motion effects that sound effects that I have in the yard, in the haunt. I actually have 2 crows, and then here in the next couple days I'll be adding a woman's scream, and then a woman's scream, a wolf howl, and then actually as people walk by, one of the things is, you're walking by a graveyard, it may be haunted. As people walk by, they might hear footsteps walking with them, things like that. Things that add the ambiance and the spookiness of the area. And here you can see Von Rolf watching us as we walk by. And this name was actually deliberate, the Von Rolf. I wanted to do something that, because of the type of grave marker it was, I wanted to make it be more of kind of like high status, because it was a larger monument. So that's where the Von came from. And the Rolf has a couple origins. One is wolf, I believe, and the other one has I found something that had like a pointer to like a maker of sorts. Since I make most of my stuff, I figured it was fitting for that. But I gotta find that site where I found it on for the Rolf, which is why I chose it. But this piece is actually made of solely foam, and then the actual face itself is vacuum formed into a sheet of plastic. And we're vacuum forming, what it is where, if any of you guys don't know, where you heat plastic up, a sheet of plastic, to where it's malleable and almost like starts dipping as it heats and gets really soft. and you pull it down over an object, turn a vacuum on, and it sucks it around the object and makes, well, things like this. This is a machine that I do have in my shop that I added last year, kind of through all the COVID. It was one of the machines I gained with when I was working on some of the PPE stuff. So that is actually one of my big centerpieces of the yard. And you'll notice that this effect with the face following you is something that if any of you have been to Disney World, it is an effect seen in the Haunted Mansion ride at Disney World. Now this tombstone is actually an authentic tombstone from a writing perspective. This one is actually the origins of this is a tombstone I found where it's from 1747. Here lies buried the body of Mrs. Agnes, the wife of Mr. Samuel Fisher, who departed this life April 17th, 1747, in the 21st year of her age. And this one this year, what I did is I did add some kind of more weather aging look to it, using literally just water and acrylic paints, and dripped it over the tombstone. So, and you can see my son's coming out. He couldn't contain himself. He had to come out and join. One of my sons. Jimmy, you want to say hi?
Hi.
So this is actually one of the main the control areas, where most of the electronics junction to, and actually where all the fog comes out. So the fog system I actually have documented online. If you'd like to go and see it, it's it's https://wiki.malamaker.org, and I do have a lot of my Halloween stuff documented there if you'd like to see. But the fog distribution comes out of this crypt. This crypt was actually specific. One, I wanted to build a big crypt in the yard, but mainly what it was to do is to hold the electronics and also facilitate the fog for the yard. And pretty much the fog system is pretty basic. The fog actually gets blown into an enclosure, or like a Tupperware, not a Tupperware, but like a Rubbermaid container. And then the Rubbermaid container has holes that vinyl tubes, come out of. And you can see where all these tubes are coming out. I've actually got a union, like a junction right here, a manifold of sorts right here, where all these tubes hook up. And actually in the manifold there's actually drain spots, so as moisture does build up in the lines, they can drain. But then this is actually what pipes all of the fog out throughout the yard. And you can see just kind of you can see the tubes all throughout there. My camera's going a little nuts on me here. Sorry here. Oh, it doesn't like me. Sorry guys, I got too rambunctious there with it. But then I also have I have smaller tubes and I have larger tubes. The larger tube is actually what feeds the perimeter of, oh my gosh, just did it to me again, sorry. I have a new camera set up, and so trying to figure out my limits of this thing. So anyways, that is the fog distribution. You can find all that on my wiki page. I also have how-tos of how I build tombstones, and many other things. Actually, I do have some templates out, and some of the new tombstones that I'm coming out with, I do have on the wiki as well, to where you can actually print them at home to actually make them in the foam, kind of as I have in my how-to of building them. So this in here, it's hard to see, but this one is Uncle Ned. He's back. Well, he's dead, and he's been back a couple times, but he hasn't returned yet. So this is Uncle Ned. That's kind of one of my early tombstones I built. And then the last of the existing tombstones is Paul Turgeist. Obviously a play on words. So that's all the existing stuff. So I'll kind of show you guys what some of the new stuff is. I'll show you kind of from back here what it looks like. The ambiance and the between the yards is hilarious. There's so much fog that just kind of goes down there. I'm actually looking at possibly adding some additional distribution up a little bit in the yard so that it misses or it gets some of this blank spot here around the crypt. But let's talk about some of the new stuff, which I've actually kind of talked a little bit about with some of the sound effects and things like that, but I'll show the new tombstones that are going to be added to the yard. So this year, I've actually moved all the tombstones that last year used to be over here to the other side, and what I'm actually going to be doing starting this year is making this part of my yard, which this is kind of more of the smaller yard in my front. I'm going to make this yard a pet cemetery, and you'll find out here in a couple minutes some of the new tombstones, and you can see the theme that's starting to emerge here. And then obviously the main graveyard will be more of the, you know, your typical graveyard. But this year I'll be, hopefully by the end of this coming week, I will have a total of 18 to 20 tombstones added in the yard. And this year, to kind of get more of the kids involved in the neighborhood, my own kids, things like that. Since last year, it was hilarious. I started one day in the middle of the day. I had kids running around the neighborhood, my own, joining them. And I go up into the attic and I start bringing down tombstones, and all the neighbor kids wanted to help. So this year, I kind of got them involved a little bit more and tasked them to figure out names and potential dates on tombstones. And so one I've made, I got another one I got to make for neighbor kid, and actually one of my buddies, I hit him up to see if some of his kids wanted to think of a name, and I know he said he had one of them that did. So hopefully I'll be adding some new tombstones that won't just be my ideas, but actually ideas from other kids in the neighborhood. So I'm going to start off right to left, and the reason why I'm starting off right to left is because the one I got all the way to the left is kind of my centerpiece for this year, and I put a lot of time and effort into that one in design work to be able to get it actually out in the yard this year, and I'm really excited about that. So the first tombstone that I'm adding, this one will go in the pet cemetery. This one might start looking a little bit familiar if you are a Tim Burton fan, but this will be a near look-alike replica of the Sparky tombstone from Frankenweenie. And you can see here the front and the middle section I've already completed. There was Sparky's name at the base, and I've already started shaping some of the bones, the dog bones, I'm guessing, that were what makes up the cross. So this next tombstone, and I'll try and get down close so you can see it. This is Frito El Burrito. And actually this is a neighbor kid's name that he came up with. I don't know if he thought I was too formal in my stuff, but he's like, you may not want this name. And I go, oh yeah, I'll take it. So I had a couple small stipulations on the kids for names, but this one actually turned out really, really well. Right now, pretty much all that's left to do with this is to cut the base, mount it to it, and put it in the yard, and stake it in the yard. So the next one, let me see if I can try and get up close to this one so you can see. And this one might not show up well on camera, but this tombstone is meant to be and there you can get really close, is meant to be a tombstone of conjoined twins. And at the bottom it says they were always joined at the hip. And this one actually is a play on names where both of my twin sons, we flipped their first and middle name, and so their middle name is actually, an initial of one of my boys' first name, and then the first name is their middle name. And because they're with my son's name the way they are, it actually spells the first name of each person makes up my first and middle name on that tombstone. But you can see on this, it's got a crack right down the middle, and all the cracks are actually supposed to look very authentic. That was actually cut with my CNC router. And then actually, to give the ragged look at the bottom, what I do is I take an acrylic knife and I kind of carve out more of the bottom of it, but it leaves a nice jaggedy bottom. So it's like perfect for giving that real rough look at the base of the crack, which, you know, on a CNC router I may not be able to get that level of detail. And so this next one, and I will post pictures of this one afterwards. Let me see if I can get up really close. Here we go. This one is Catzilla, so this one will go into the pet cemetery. Nice jaggedy looking tombstone. But Catzilla, I'll let you guys try and figure out what movie this one is themed around. But the saying is, they were about to gas him again, but the mouse got him first. And so this one's more of an original design of mine, not actually coming out of a movie, but more themed around a movie. And actually this image right here was taken specifically out of the movie. So that lettering and everything is actually original to the name tag of the pet that was in that movie. So I'll let you guys figure that one out. And this is the cornerstone of this year's tombstones, and I will start from the top and scan down. But here lies ye body of Mr. William Butcherson, died the 1st of May, 1693, lost soul. And this one, if you guys didn't know, is the tombstone replica out of the movie Hocus Pocus. So this one has been a labor of love. I have put a lot of hours into design work to get this the way it is. This one, and also the Sparky tombstone, there are printable templates online to where you can actually print this yourself and hand cut this if you'd like. So but that is all of the new stuff in the yard this year. Actually, next year will be a even bigger year, actually a very big year for expansion on the yard. I'm really excited, but I am not going to tell what next year will bring, because that will spoil it for everybody. You know, it's like one of those things where you want to make it a nice surprise when the time of year does come around. So I apologize if anybody has been kind of looking for updates from me this year. This year has been a bit of a tough year when it comes to some of my machines and things like that. I've had machine outages and machines going down and replacing parts all year, especially in the last 2 months. And so it has actually put me about 3 weeks behind. This year was my first year actually starting on October 1st. And actually it's going to be something that next year I'm actually going to start a little bit earlier, just to build in some buffer just in case I have some machine issues. But it will start and be official on October 1st. So if you're in the Central Illinois area and you'd like to come out, it's not anything special, you know, it's just a drive-by type of thing, but this is a very spooky haunt. That's what the intent is to be. And yeah, come check it out. But anyways, thanks for tuning in, everybody. I'm MalaMaker. Happy making, everybody, and happy Halloween.